did it!
Yeah, we did it!
The school looked like safety. That was the first thing that made it dangerous. It sat behind iron gates and manicured trees, built on quiet land that didn't advertise itself on billboards. Brick buildings, white columns, a courtyard fountain that never stopped running. Students in clean uniforms moving in neat lines, as if order could be taught like math. Miles Carter stared at the satellite view on his tablet and felt the same cold certainty he had felt in the airfield. This was not a random place. This was a hub, a place designed to feel too respectable to question. Agent Mallory Grant watched through the windshield of an unmarked car parked 2 blocks away. The morning light was bright now, the kind of daylight that made evil look ordinary. Graham Holt sat in the back seat, checking a small comms unit and a map printed on paper because paper didn't get hacked. No sirens, no urgency, just a quiet approach into the kind of place where loud people were immediately noticed. Grant spoke without drama. "This is not a raid," she said. "This is an entry." Miles nodded, but his throat was tight. The last message still burned in his mind. "You paused my upload. Good. Now watch what I upload into the child's life." That sentence was not a metaphor. It was a plan. Grant's phone vibrated once. A secure update from the interdiction team. Medical transport boxed in. 1 vehicle stopped. No patient recovered. Driver claims empty run. A decoy. Miles felt sick. "They moved Mara before the intercept," he said quietly. Grant's eyes stayed forward. "They moved her because they expected us to chase her. Ace scene 7. Graham's voice was flat. "So we stopped chasing." Grant nodded once. "We go where the machine lives." Miles tapped the invoice trail again. Caldwell Medical Transport. Shell payments. School Foundation. Charity Board. Private security vendor. All roads led here. Kingfisher Academy. The name sounded like a brochure. The kind of place donors bragged about funding. The kind of place parents begged to get their children into. The kind of place predators loved because predators didn't like basements. Predators liked hallways with cameras and rules and polite staff who never imagined what could happen inside. Grant turned to Miles. "Give me the spine," she said. Miles pulled up the relationship map he had built overnight. A board chairman, a headmaster, a donor committee, a wellness initiative run by a separate non-profit, and a security contractor whose name kept repeating across other contracts. Miles read it out loud. Headmaster is Dr. Julian Kessler. Board chair is Maren Wycliffe. Security contractor is Sentinel Ridge, run by Thomas Vane. Wellness nonprofit is Bright Shield Youth Initiative. Graham's mouth tightened. Bright Shield. Grant's eyes narrowed. Protecting children. Again, Miles swallowed. They reuse the same words because words create permission, Grant said, and permission creates access. She looked at the academy entrance. A guard booth, a keypad gate, a camera that panned slowly like it was bored, a school bus turning in, parents dropping off in luxury SUVs. Normal. Normal was camouflage. Grant spoke into her earpiece. Phase 1 is a soft entry. We do not force this place to defend itself. We make it open the door. Miles felt his pulse spike. "How do we get in?" he asked. Grant did not look away from the gate. "We go in as something this place is trained to obey," she said. "Compliance." Graham exhaled once. "Auditors," Grant nodded. "Auditors, inspectors, people with forms, people who can delay a schedule without raising their voice." Miles thought of the airfield again, the pilot's hesitation, the power of paperwork. Grant continued, "They built a machine that survives confrontation. So we do not confront, we disrupt." Miles stared at the campus map. "There's an event tonight," he said. "Donor dinner. Gala. Scholarship announcement." Grant's jaw tightened. Of course there is, she said. Machines love ceremonies. Ceremonies create cover. Graham leaned forward. What's the risk window? Grant replied. Tonight is the window. Miles looked up. For what? Grant's voice was steel. For the upload into the child's life. Miles didn't say Sofia's name. But the image of her sleeping face flashed in his mind again, taken by someone close enough to smell her hair. Grant's phone vibrated again. Another secure update? Shorter, worse. Protection detail reports missing check-in. Secondary team searching. Miles felt cold move through him. Contact lost, he whispered. Grant's face did not change, but the air inside the car shifted. Graham spoke, low. They're touching the witness perimeter. Grant nodded. Yes. She looked at the academy again. And they're doing it from a place that wears safety like a uniform. Heverminter, it news to serve spilier, to size wed. Miles forced himself to breathe. Grant opened the glove compartment and pulled out a folder. Inside were credentials. Not fake in a cheap way. Carefully built identities with enough legitimacy to survive a quick check. Grant handed one to Miles. Your name today is Ethan Rowe, she said. Federal compliance analyst. Quiet, boring, invisible. Miles's stomach tightened. He hated the name change, but he understood why. Names were patterns. Patterns were hooks for machines. Grant handed a second set to Graham. You're Marcus Hale, she said. Safety Systems Inspector, ex-military profile. You do not threaten. You do not smile. You stand like a wall. Graham nodded. Grant kept her own credentials. Dana Mercer, she said. Non-profit oversight liaison. Donor compliance. Foundation audit trigger. Miles swallowed. How do we justify being here? He asked. Grant's answer was calm. Bright Shield Youth Initiative, she said. Their non-profit filings have anomalies. We are here to verify documentation before tonight's donor event. Graham's eyes narrowed. And if they refuse? Grant said, they won't. Miles frowned. Why are you sure? Grant looked at the campus like she was reading a living thing. Because if their machine is built on legitimacy, she said, it is built on fear of legitimacy being questioned. They pulled up to the gate. The guard inside the booth was young, clean, polite. The kind of man who thought safety was a uniform and a clipboard. Grant lowered her window. The guard smiled, practiced. Good morning. Can I help you? Grant held up the badge and the folder, not waving it, just placing it in reality. Foundation oversight, she said. We have a scheduled compliance verification. The guard blinked. I wasn't notified. Grant's voice stayed gentle. That's common. Compliance visits aren't announced publicly. We're here to confirm Bright Shield documentation before tonight's donor program. The guard swallowed. His eyes flicked to the badge, then to the seal on the paperwork, then to the line that mattered. Immediate verification required. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. Miles watched his posture change. This guard did not want to refuse. Refusal created attention. Attention created blame. A voice spoke on the other end. The guard nodded. Yes, yes. 3. Yes, ma'am. He hung up, pushed a button, and the gate began to open. Proceed to the main office, the guard said. Grant nodded once. No victory smile. Because a machine opened doors with politeness and then closed them with pressure. They drove through the campus slowly. Students moved between buildings. Teachers watched from a distance. Cameras on poles rotated. The landscaping was perfect. The perfection was the warning. No place with this much control was built for children. It was built for adults who wanted to feel clean. They parked near the administrative building. A tall man stepped out onto the front steps as if he had been waiting. He wore a grey suit, no tie, a calm face that looked engineered. Dr. Julian Kessler, the headmaster. He walked down the steps and extended a hand. Dana Mercer. he said, reading Grant's name like he had already memorized it. Welcome to Kingfisher. Zedges. Grant shook his hand once, brief and firm. We'll keep this efficient, Grant said. Kessler smiled. We value efficiency. Miles watched Kessler's eyes. They were warm the way Vale's eyes were warm. Inviting, then dangerous. Kessler looked at Miles. And you are? Miles kept his face neutral. Ethan Rowe. Compliance analysis. Kessler nodded at Graham. And you? Graham's voice was flat. Marcus Hale. Safety systems. Kessler's smile tightened a fraction. The kind of man who liked control did not like walls. Please, Kessler said. My office. Inside, the air smelled like lemon and expensive wood. Framed photos lined the hallway. Students shaking hands with donors. Graduation caps. Scholarship checks. Smiling adults. Miles scanned them. Something felt wrong. The photos were too clean, too consistent, too staged. They entered Kessler's office. Large desk, soft lighting, diplomas on the wall, a bookshelf that looked curated, not read. Kessler gestured to chairs. Grant did not sit. She placed the folder on his desk instead. We're here for Bright Shield Youth Initiative, she said. We need access to program records, staff contracts, vendor invoices, and wellness services documentation. Kessler's smile did not leave, but it thinned. Bright Shield is a partner non-profit, he said. It provides counseling support for scholarship students. Grant nodded. Then documentation should be simple. Kessler spread his hands. Of course. He reached for a phone on his desk. Grant's voice stopped him. Before you call anyone, she said calmly, understand, this is not a request for cooperation. This is compliance verification. If we leave without documentation, the donor event tonight becomes a compliance risk. Kessler held still. Then he smiled again. You're saying you can stop tonight, he said. Grant replied, I'm saying you can keep tonight quiet by making this fast. Kessler nodded slowly. Understood, he said. He tapped his phone. A woman entered 2 minutes later. Mid-40s, calm, hair pulled tight, eyes sharp. She looked like administration. She moved like security. Kessler introduced her. This is Miss Leora Penfield, he said, Director of Student Wellness. Grant watched Penfield's face. Penfield's smile arrived late. Not a natural smile. A smile used for work. Dana Mercer, Grant said. We'll need your Bright Shield records. Penfield nodded. Of course. We protect children here. Grant didn't react to the phrase. She let it hang. We'll start with vendor payments, Grant said. Caldwell Medical Transport. Penfield's eyes flickered. Just a millimeter. Miles saw it. Kessler's gaze sharpened toward Penfield, as if warning her to stay smooth. Penfield recovered instantly. Caldwell handles occasional wellness transfers, she said. Students sometimes require specialized care. Grant's tone stayed neutral. We'll need transfer logs. Penfield nodded, still smiling. Certainly, she said. Please follow me to our records room. Graham didn't move. He stayed near the door, watching. A wall. Penfield walked them down a hallway toward a smaller office area. As they walked, Miles glanced through glass windows. Classrooms, students, normal lessons. But then he saw a door at the end of the hall. No label, just a keypad, 2 cameras aimed at it. A teacher walked past and avoided looking at it. Miles felt his stomach tighten. Grant's voice was low beside him. You see it, she said without looking at him. Miles nodded. Penfield led them into a records room lined with file cabinets and a computer terminal. She sat at the terminal and began pulling up documents. Grant stood behind her. Miles stood to the side. Graham remained near the doorway, watching the hall. Penfield opened a folder labeled Bright Shield. Grant pointed calmly. Vendor list, she said. Start there. Penfield clicked. Names appeared. Counseling services. Transportation. Private security consulting. Miles froze when he saw one name, Sentinel Ridge, the same security contractor. Miles spoke softly. Thomas Vane. Penfield's hand paused for a fraction of a second. See it. Confirm it. Don't reveal it. Miles swallowed. Grant leaned in slightly. We'll need the security contract scope, she said. Penfield nodded. Sentinel Ridge is standard campus safety. Grant's voice stayed polite. Standard safety does not usually involve medical transport contracts. Penfield's smile tightened. We are a high-profile academy. We take risks seriously. Grant nodded. So do we. Penfield printed documents, sliding them across. Grant read. Miles, read faster. Payment line items. Wellness relocation. Private transport. Discretion fee. Miles's throat tightened. Discretion was not a medical term. It was a cover. Grant tapped the paper. What is the discretion fee? She asked. Penfield's voice stayed smooth. Privacy protocols, HIPAA compliance, sensitive cases. Grant's eyes didn't soften. Sensitive cases involving minors? Penfield nodded. Yes, Grant said. Then you won't mind giving us the names of the cases attached to those fees. Penfield's smile became thin glass. We protect identities, she said. Grant replied, and we protect legality. Penfield's gaze flicked toward the hallway again. Miles followed her gaze. The keypad door. Penfield's voice lowered. Those identities are confidential. Grant spoke in the same tone. So are federal investigations. The air in the room tightened. Penfield's polite voice returned. If you need student names, you'll require specific authorization. Grant nodded once. Fine. She pulled out another document from the folder. A temporary compliance hold notice. The same kind of weapon they used at the airfield. We can issue an immediate pause on tonight's donor event pending verification, Grant said calmly. Or you can provide the logs now. Penfield stared at the paper. The war inside her face was small, but visible. She wasn't afraid of losing her job. She was afraid of someone else noticing she had lost control. Penfield stood. I'll speak with Dr. Kessler. Grant nodded. We'll wait. Penfield left the room. The door clicked shut. Miles exhaled slowly. Graham's voice came low from the doorway. We're being watched. Miles whispered. We already were. Grant didn't argue. She stepped closer to the terminal. Miles understood immediately. We shouldn't, he started. Grant cut him off quietly. We will, she said. She typed, not hacking, searching. Because machines hid behind organization, but organization always left trails. Grant opened recent access logs. A file name appeared in a list of recently accessed documents. Transfer suite. Miles felt ice move through him. Grant clicked. A document opened. A schedule, not for students, for clients. Rooms, times, escort names, transport coordination, and one name repeated at the top of the page, Caldwell. Miles stared at the location field. A building code. Infirmary Annex B, inside the academy. Miles whispered, They're moving people through the school. Grant's voice stayed flat. They're storing them here. Graham's eyes narrowed. Like inventory, Miles's stomach turned. Then Grant's phone vibrated. A secure message. Protection detail found. One agent unconscious. Witness relocated by unknown party. Location unknown. Miles felt his chest tighten. They took Sofia, he whispered. Grant's face hardened into something colder than anger. She whispered back, They touched her. Graham's voice went dangerous. We stop this now. Grant did not raise her voice. She looked at Miles. Find Annex B, she said. Miles pulled up the campus map and traced the infirmary route. Annex B sat behind the gymnasium. No student traffic. Near the service road. Near the same keypad door. Miles swallowed. It's behind that keypad. Grant nodded. Graham's jaw tightened. We breach. Grant shook her head once. "No breach yet," she said. "We don't give them a clip. We don't give them a reason to trigger emergency protocols." Miles stared. "They already took the witness." Grant's voice became steel. "Which means they want us to move like a raid. They want us loud. They want us recorded." Graham clenched his fist, then forced it open. Grant continued. "We move like compliance. We move like paperwork. We move like people who can walk through a hall without a gun in frame." Miles's tablet buzzed. Unknown number. Another message. A new photo. Not Sofia this time. A hallway. White walls. Medical lighting. A woman's hand visible at the edge of the frame, bruised at the wrist. Mara. Miles felt his throat tighten. Grant stared at the photo and didn't blink. She spoke into her earpiece. "Clinic team, hold perimeter on Caldwell House. Do not engage unless transport moves. We have Mara inside the academy." Then she turned to Graham. "Get us a reason to be at the infirmary," she said. Graham didn't ask how. He simply moved. He stepped into the hall and stopped a passing staff member. A man in a blazer with a lanyard. Graham's voice was calm, professional. "Safety systems inspection," he said. "We need to verify emergency access routes to the infirmary annex before tonight's event." The man blinked, then nodded. "Of course. I can take you." Graham gestured for Grant and Miles. Grant walked out, posture calm. Miles followed, heart pounding, tablet held low. They moved through the hallway like they belonged, because belonging was a weapon. As they approached the keypad door, the staff guide slowed. "This area is restricted," he said. Grant's voice stayed polite. "And we're verifying restricted routes." The guide hesitated, then pulled a badge card from his lanyard. He swiped. The door clicked. Miles felt cold fear. This was too easy. Machines made things easy when they wanted you inside. They walked through. The hallway beyond was quieter. No student art, no posters, just white walls and cameras, a faint smell of disinfectant. Annex B. They reached an infirmary door. A sign read, "Wellness Services." The words looked harmless. Grant pushed the door open. Inside, a reception desk sat empty. Beyond it, a corridor with closed doors. Graham's eyes scanned the ceiling. Cameras. Too many. Grant's voice was low. "We are in their house." Miles swallowed. "Where is she?" Grant didn't answer with guesswork. She answered with procedure. "Quiet," she said. They moved down the corridor. A door at the end was different, heavier. No window, a keypad. A small camera pointed directly at face height. Grant stared at it. A trap designed to record whoever tried to enter. Graham stepped beside her and blocked the camera angle with his body. A wall. Grant pulled out the printed compliance notice again. She held it up at chest height, where the camera could see the seal, but not her face. Then she knocked. A soft knock. Professional. A moment passed. Then a voice came through the door. "Who is it?" Grant kept her tone calm. "Foundation oversight," she said. "We need immediate verification of wellness transfer protocols." Silence. Then a lock clicked. The door opened a fraction. A man looked out. Short hair, medical scrubs, calm eyes, but his posture was wrong. Not clinical, operational. He glanced at the document, then looked at Grant's face. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Come back later," he said. Grant didn't move. "We can't," she replied. "Tonight's donor event triggers compliance deadlines." The man's jaw tightened. He started to close the door. Graham moved. He didn't shove. He placed his hand on the door edge, stopping it. A controlled block. The man's eyes flashed. "You can't." Grant's voice dropped. "We can. Open it." The man hesitated. Then the door opened wider. Grant stepped in first. Calm. Miles followed, heart pounding. The room inside looked like a clinic. Medical equipment. IV stands. A gurney. A screen. And on the gurney, strapped at the wrists, pale but alive, was Mara. Miles felt the air leave his lungs. Mara's eyes turned toward them. Not fear, recognition. Like she had been waiting for proof that someone still believed her voice mattered. Grant moved to her immediately. "No names," Grant said softly, but her eyes were on Mara's face. "Can you speak?" Mara's lips parted. Her voice was dry, weak. "They're moving her." Miles froze. "Sofia." Mara nodded once, eyes filling. "They took her from the safe place." Grant's jaw tightened. The man in scrubs stepped back toward a cabinet. Graham saw it. He moved fast, pinning the man's wrist against the cabinet door. The man tried to twist away. Graham held him still, not breaking him, just owning the movement. Grant spoke to the man, voice like ice. "Where is the witness?" The man's eyes flicked to the ceiling. A camera. He didn't want to speak on record. Grant saw it. She grabbed a cloth from the counter and tossed it over the nearest camera lens. No violence. Just blindness. Then she looked back at the man. "No," she said. The man swallowed. "I don't know." Grant didn't flinch. "Lie again," she said, "and you become the story." Miles moved to Mara's straps, hands shaking as he released them. Mara winced, but she didn't cry. She had already cried somewhere else. Grant leaned close to Mara. "Can you walk?" Grant asked. Mara nodded, barely. Graham tightened his grip on the man. "You do know. You're here. You see the transfers." The man's breathing quickened. Grant's voice stayed low. "Caldwell." The man flinched. Grant pressed. "Which route?" The man's eyes flicked toward a door behind a privacy curtain. "A back exit." Grant nodded once. Graham whispered, "That's our answer." Grant turned to Miles. "Get her up," she said. "We move now." Miles supported Mara's arm. Mara's legs wobbled. She steadied herself through sheer will. They moved toward the back door. Graham dragged the man a step closer. "Code," Graham said. "Keypad." The man clenched his jaw. Grant's voice turned deadly calm. "If you don't give it, we break the door. If we break the door, we become the headline. Decide." The man exhaled in defeat and rattled off 4 numbers. Graham typed them. The door unlocked. They stepped into a narrow service corridor. Cooler air. No cameras, just pipes and concrete. A place built to move things without being seen. Grant spoke into her earpiece. "We have Mara. Extract route through Annex B service corridor. Need exterior pickup." A response came back. "Copy. Vehicle in 2 minutes." Miles's heart pounded. They turned a corner and stopped because the corridor ahead was not empty. A man stood there in a blazer. Not a teacher, not staff. Security, tall, calm, hands empty. But his eyes were not empty. They were measuring. Grant recognized him instantly from Miles's map. Thomas Vane, Sentinel Ridge, the security contractor. Vane smiled like someone who enjoyed polite power. "Miss Mercer," he said, using Grant's cover name with perfect confidence, "you shouldn't be back here." Grant didn't pretend. Her voice stayed flat. "Move." Vane chuckled softly. "This is a school," he said. "You can't be seen dragging a woman through the walls of a school." Miles felt ice crawl up his spine. Vane wasn't threatening violence. He was threatening exposure, the most effective weapon in a respectable place. Grant stared at him, calm. "You moved her through here," Grant said. "Not me." Vane's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what you're stepping into," Grant replied. "I understand, Hubs." Vane's smile returned. "Then you understand choices." He gestured slightly behind him. 2 more men stepped out of the shadows. No guns visible, but the posture of men who had them. Vane spoke like a teacher correcting a student. "You took a device at an airfield," he said. "You embarrassed a donor event. You made the internet laugh for a moment. Congratulations." Grant didn't react. Vane continued. Now you're inside a place that has parents, cameras, and a reputation. This place eats you alive if you become loud. Miles's throat tightened. He could see the trap. If they fought, it would look like agents attacking a school. If they didn't fight, Mara would be taken back. Grant spoke, quiet. "Where is the witness?" she asked. Vane's eyes softened in a fake way. "You keep calling her a witness," he said, as if that word makes her safe. Miles felt rage rise. Grant stayed calm. Then Vane said something that made Miles's blood turn to ice. "She's in a classroom." Miles blinked. A classroom. The sentence was grotesque precisely because it sounded normal. Vane smiled slightly. "Because normal is the best hiding place," he said. Grant's jaw tightened. Mara whispered, weak but urgent. "They're going to film her." Miles felt his chest tighten. The upload into her life. Not online. In person. A recorded confession. A staged meltdown. A manufactured clip that would follow her forever. Grant looked at Vane. "You're going to let a child be filmed inside a school," Grant said. Vane replied calmly, "I'm going to let a narrative be born where it can't be questioned." Grant's eyes hardened into steel. Then she did something Vane did not expect. She smiled faintly. Not warmth. Calculation. "You think you control exposure," she said. Vane's smile flickered. Grant continued, voice still quiet. "But you're standing in a service corridor with a restrained woman and a fake clinician behind you. If I press one button, every parent in this building gets a lockdown alert. The police arrive, media arrives, and your respectable machine becomes a panic story." Vane's expression tightened. Graham's voice stayed flat. "You don't want that." Vane stared at Grant. "You'd burn the school," he said. Grant replied, "I'd save a child." Vane's eyes narrowed. "You don't even have her." Grant nodded. "Not yet." She spoke into her earpiece calmly. "Trigger a campus safety drill. Level yellow. Now." Miles felt his stomach drop. A pause. Then the response came back. "Confirmed." A second later, a faint alarm tone echoed through the corridor. Not screaming, a polite chime. The kind of sound schools used to herd people without panic. A voice came over distant speakers. "Attention staff. Level yellow safety drill. Please proceed to your assigned protocols." Vane's face changed. Not fear. Timing. Grant's voice was calm. "Now every adult is moving. Every hallway is watched. Every camera is active. Your quiet corridor becomes a liability." Vane's jaw tightened. He glanced at his men. They hesitated. Because their power depended on silence, and silence was gone. Grant leaned closer. "Where is the classroom?" she said. Vane held her gaze. Then he made a choice. He stepped aside, half a step, and nodded toward a stairwell. "Second floor," he said. "North wing, classroom 214. Grant didn't thank him. She moved. Miles supported Mara, guiding her toward the exit where their pickup would arrive. Graham stayed one step behind Grant. A wall. Vane watched them go, and his voice followed, like a knife. "You can run upstairs," he called. "But you can't erase what they already recorded." Grant didn't look back. She didn't need to, because that sentence told her the truth. They were late. They had to win anyway. Grant and Graham sprinted up the stairwell, moving against the flow of staff, following drill routes. Grant's badge opened a door. They emerged into the second-floor corridor. Students were being guided calmly by teachers. No panic yet. Just movement. And movement was cover. Grant moved fast, scanning classroom numbers. She reached the door. It was closed. A small window. Grant glanced through. She saw a classroom that looked normal. Desks, whiteboard, a teacher's table, and at the front, sitting in a chair too big for her, was Sofia. Her eyes were wide, face pale, hands clenched, A camera tripod sat near the teacher's desk, a phone mounted on it. Recording. A woman stood beside it, smiling gently. Not a teacher, a counselor. She spoke softly to Sofia, like she was guiding her through something safe. Grant opened the door. The counselor turned, smile ready. Then her smile died when she saw Grant. Sofia's eyes locked on Grant, and in that look was relief so sharp it hurt. Grant's voice was calm but final. "Step away from her," Grant said. The counselor raised her hand slightly. "This is a safety session," Grant replied. "This is coercion." The counselor's gaze shifted toward the camera, as if measuring what was being recorded. Grant moved one step and placed her body between Sofia and the lens. Then she reached down and took Sofia's hand, gently, firmly. Sofia's fingers were cold. The counselor's smile returned in a brittle way. "You can't take her," she said. Grant's voice was ice. "Watch me." The counselor glanced toward the door. A second later, two men appeared. Not teachers. Security. Grant recognized one face from the corridor. Sentinel Ridge. Graham stepped forward like a wall and blocked them. No punches. No threats. Just a physical denial. One security man spoke. "Low. This isn't your jurisdiction." Grant answered, "This isn't your child." The counselor's voice sharpened. "She's unstable. She's being coached." Grant looked at Sofia. Sofia's eyes were dry. No hysteria, no performance, just the look of a child who had learned adults, lied with calm voices. Sofia whispered, "They told me to say my mum made me do it." Grant's jaw tightened. They weren't just trying to silence her. They were trying to rewrite her. Grant leaned down slightly. "You don't say anything," Grant whispered. "You just walk with me." Sofia nodded once. Grant turned her head slightly to Graham. "Now," she said. Graham moved. He stepped into the doorway and used his body to force the two men back without striking them, without giving the camera a violent frame. Then he reached over and ripped the phone off the tripod. He didn't smash it. He pocketed it. Evidence. The counselor lunged toward him. Graham sidestepped and blocked her with an open hand, keeping distance. Grant held Sofia's hand and walked out of the classroom. Slowly, calmly, because if they ran, it would look like kidnapping. If they walked, it looked like custody. They moved down the corridor, into the stairwell. Behind them, the counselor shouted, "This is a protected institution." Grant didn't answer. She kept moving. Downstairs, Miles met them near the annex exit, with Mara leaning on him. Sofia saw Mara and froze. For a second, the child forgot the rules of survival and became what she was. A daughter. "Mama," Sofia whispered. Mara's eyes filled. She stepped forward and wrapped Sofia carefully, gently, as if she feared breaking her. Sofia pressed her face into Mara's side and breathed like she had been holding her breath for days. Miles felt his throat tighten. Grant spoke into her earpiece, fast. "Extraction now. Witness recovered. Move to tertiary location." A vehicle horn chirped outside. "Pick up." They moved. Graham led, checking corners. Grant stayed between Sofia and any open hallway. Miles supported Mara. They exited through the service door into daylight. An unmarked vehicle waited. Door open. They loaded in fast. Sofia in the middle seat, between Grant and Mara. Miles climbed in beside them, tablet clutched like a lifeline. Graham got in front passenger. The vehicle rolled away. Behind them, the academy remained perfect. The drill continued. Parents would never know how close their school had come to being a crime scene. Miles looked back through the rear window. He saw Thomas Vane standing near the service corridor exit, calm, hands in pockets, watching them leave. Not running, not chasing. Because he didn't need to. He believed the machine still had the advantage. Grant stared forward. She spoke softly to Miles. "They recorded something," she said. Miles nodded. "And the phone?" Graham's voice was flat. "We have it." Grant nodded once. "Good." Mara's voice was weak, but steady. They wanted me to speak, she said. They wanted Sofia to repeat. Miles swallowed. To make the world doubt her, Mara nodded. And to make her doubt herself. Grant's jaw tightened. That's the upload, Grant said quietly. Not files. Not audio. Identity. Sofia's voice was small. They said, if I didn't help, you would go away, she whispered. Grant turned her head slightly. You don't help them, Grant said. You help yourself by staying quiet. Sofia nodded once. Then Sofia said something that made Miles's blood run cold. They said the billionaire already left. Grant's eyes snapped to Miles. Miles pulled up the airfield monitoring feed. No departure logged. No takeoff. But then he saw it. A new route filed. Not from that airfield. A different private strip. 30 miles away. A backup plan. Miles swallowed. He moved the departure point. Grant's voice stayed still. Of course. Graham's jaw tightened. Then we didn't stop the exit. Grant didn't argue. We stopped the school, she said. We broke a hub. Miles opened the phone Graham had taken. He unlocked it carefully, using the methods he had learned. The recording file list appeared. One clip stood out. Classroom 214. Miles's stomach turned. He opened it. He watched 3 seconds. Sofia sitting at the front. A counselor's gentle voice. And a prompt designed like a trap. Tell us what your mother told you to say. Miles paused the video. Grant's eyes hardened. We do not play that again. Miles nodded. But he had already seen enough. They had not only recorded, they had scripted. A staged confession designed to go viral. Designed to turn Sofia into a liar in public before she ever spoke in court. Miles whispered, this was scheduled. Grant replied, everything is scheduled. Miles scrolled. He found a second folder, Transfer Suite. Inside were clips, short videos, different faces, different rooms, different times. People who looked sedated, disoriented, smiling on command. A production line. Miles felt sick. This place is a factory, he whispered. Grant's voice stayed calm. And factories have owners. Mara's hands trembled slightly as she held Sofia. Mara whispered, they said he's not one man. Miles looked up. Vale. Mara nodded. They said if Vale falls, the school still stands. If the school falls, another stands. Grant's face hardened. That means we're not chasing a villain, Grant said. We're dismantling a model. Miles swallowed. How? Grant stared out the window. By making the model expensive, she said. Graham looked back. We're staying invisible. Grant nodded. We do not expose the witness. We expose the infrastructure. Miles exhaled. The contracts, the videos, the discrete fees. Grant nodded once. And the people who signed? Miles pulled up the Bright Shield board roster again. Maren Wycliffe, board chair, donor committee. Names, faces, reputations. The kind of people who feared headlines more than prison. Grant's phone vibrated. A secure message arrived. Airfield team confirms Vale not present. Escort team relocated. Rourke missing. Grant's eyes narrowed. Rourke vanished, she said. Graham's voice went flat. He's repositioning. Miles felt his pulse spike. Then his tablet pinged. Unknown number. A new message. No threats this time. Just coordinates. And one sentence. If you want to end the model, follow the money tonight. Miles stared. Grant stared. Graham leaned in, reading it. Mara whispered, that's him. Miles frowned. Rourke. Grant's eyes hardened. Or someone wearing Rourke, she said. Miles scrolled. The coordinates pointed to a location near the city center. A hotel. Not the academy. Not an airfield. A ballroom. Another donor event. Another stage. Miles's stomach tightened. Tonight, he whispered. They're doing it again. Grant stared at the message. Then she looked at Sofia. Sofia was quiet now, exhausted, eyes heavy. Grant spoke softly, as if making a promise she intended to keep. "They will not touch you again," Grant said. Sofia didn't answer with words. She answered by gripping Mara's hand tighter. Grant turned to Graham. "We recovered the witness and the mother," she said. "Now we take the model's oxygen." Graham's jaw tightened. "Donors," Grant nodded. "Donors, contracts, video pipeline, the entire polite surface?" Miles swallowed. "And Vale?" Grant's eyes were steel. "Vale is already leaving," she said. "So we stop trying to catch his body." Miles frowned. "Then what do we catch?" Grant replied, "His hands." Miles stared. Grant continued, "He can't run without hands. He can't build without hands. He can't upload without hands." When the Sagan, tu sayand dot grow. Graham's voice was calm. "Tonight we take the hands." Grant nodded. Miles looked down at the phone again. He hovered over the recording file. Then he deleted nothing. He saved everything. Evidence, receipts, the kind of thing that turned polite lies into criminal patterns. Miles looked at Grant. "Tonight," he said. Grant nodded once. "Tonight," she replied. Outside, the city moved, like nothing had happened. Parents would pack lunches. Teachers would write lesson plans. Donors would prepare speeches about protecting children. And somewhere, a billionaire was changing his departure point. A security contractor was preparing a new hallway, and a machine was already writing the next story it wanted the public to believe. But now Grant had the witness. Now Grant had the mother. Now Grant had the phone. And the next time the machine tried to upload, it would find something it could not edit. A pattern, a map, a name on a signature line. Miles stared at the coordinates again. The hotel ballroom, the donor event, the money. He felt the next chapter tighten into place. Because the school had been a hub, but money was the root, and roots were always deeper than the place you could see. Grant looked out the window and spoke, low and final. "They wanted to upload fear into her life," she said. Miles swallowed. Grant continued, voice steady. "Now we upload consequences into theirs.